Today we have Tyler and Melissa with us. Hey guys,
Hey, how are
Hey,
we?
good, good, good.
we're staying awake on this rainy day.
Absolutely. It's nice and cozy.
Yes, it is. Us
So,
all family style around. So, Tyler, we wanted to talk with you about working with first responders and veterans, something very near and dear to your heart.
Oh my gosh, so near and dear to my heart. And I do just have to preface, today we're going to be talking about veterans and first responders and showing support for veterans and first responders. I just have to put out there should never be a political statement.
Mm.
Um, I think we definitely live in times where politics can get very all over the place, and showing support for men and women who put themselves in harm's way every day and who really succumb to a lot of moral injury. Um, it's just important that we can honor that without having to be political. That's my only soapbox for today.
my soapbox is I think that they should have mandatory counseling,
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
and it should be included in as one of their benefits. I don't see how you could do that job and not get
Right,
counseling.
right. And you know what's crazy about that whole piece to me is that as I started to work with especially many veterans, and I think first responders obviously have their own training, a core piece of that training, um, when we think of the Marine Corps and different things, a core piece of that training is essentially stripping these individuals
Mm-hmm.
down to such basic functions of survival, where essentially emotions don't get in the way, as emotions do not serve as a barrier
Mm.
to for operation. So in
Mm-hmm.
other words, we are training you to not be responsive to emotions. We're training
Mm-hmm.
you in a robotic sense to get out there, do what you need to do, bury down some feelings. And the thing that is just so terrible is so much goes into that training, and yet when their service is up, it's just go home and live your life.
Go home and live your
Let's
life.
not worry about giving you the parts that we took from you. Let's not worry about making sure that you're whole again, that you're able to function and survive, and that seems to be where so many things go wrong in so many ways. It's not necessarily about just trauma incurred in service.
Right.
It's you have your identity has been removed and it's been injected with this new identity, and now you're expected to somehow survive outside of service with this new identity that you're not around people that can relate to it.
Well, I always say I understand how they do have to break down your identity because you're not supposed to say, hey, I don't agree with that idea on the
Mm-hmm.
invasion. How about we do this instead?
Right.
Absolutely,
They want you to
absolutely.
follow, right?
Of course, it's and you are one part, and it's also
Mm,
thinking
Right.
of
everybody else. Yeah.
services as a whole, first responders, veterans. Like it's not just my contribution. Like I am a part of something, and we all have to move as one. So yeah, there's no individuality there.
Right. Even the idea of like adapt and overcome is really beautiful in high conflict or high combat situations. But to your guys' point, if that's not taken offline when you're back not in high conflict, high combat times, that's what leads itself, right, to some of this numbing and explosive behavior.
100%, 100%. That's something that I've heard the narrative, especially from some Marines that I work with, that I currently work with, is we, kind of verbatim, I've heard them say, we have essentially been trained to function at such a high level, when there's chaos that's like all around us. So now you would think like, oh, well, if I can do this in
Mhm.
chaos, then I should be able to do anything when chaos doesn't exist. It's never that simple.
No.
It's never that simple. When sometimes now I think when certain veterans, probably first responders as well, when they're not on the job, they find themselves
Mhm.
having a decrease in like life functions because chaos is not there. And then there comes that tricky part where, well, now if chaos is a way that kind of helps us feel centered because that's what we're used to, then how can I go out and find chaos to create in
Mhm.
my life, right? Um, Yeah.
And that was my introduction to first responders and military folks, is working with them in the drug and alcohol setting, because that seeking chaos, but also quieting and numbing that voice or those images or those traumatic experiences. You're 100% right. If I'm not taught how to take that drive offline, I am going to seek chaos, and that can come in a variety of self-harming ways.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, drugs and alcohol, I think, is something that we always hear that, can be maladaptive coping in that aspect. But I'll tell you, one of the first veterans I ever worked with taught me a whole lot. And, he was talking about when he was discharged and he came home, and I said, "What's the first thing you did?" And he said, "I went out and bought a crotch rocket muscle bike motorcycle." And he said, "Never got it under 110.
Wow.
And he said, "I was chasing, I guess in the drug world, we always hear like chasing the dragon, right? So that first high that we got, that we can't ever really achieve again." And I think for this individual, it was like, this high of adrenaline and chaos that was day to day for him in Afghanistan. And now, how can I even just get close to recreating that so I feel like I'm whole again?
Yeah, there are a lot of aspects of being a first responder, being in the military. I think the thing that I find the most fascinating is, with all of those people, they share one common thing. You're going to either kill people or deal with dead people or dead family members or chaotic, horrible situations, but we're not going to give you any training about what it's doing to you as an individual.
No, a little bit of a graphic story. So if this bothers you, just tune it out, or whatever right now.
Turn off this part.
Turn off this part. I worked with an individual who never identified certain aspects of, I think, what he was going through presently when he came to me had more to do with integration back into everyday society. And I do truly believe that was the part that was affecting him the most. As he started to unpack his story, he said, "Yeah, there was this one time it was 120 degrees and I was over in Afghanistan, and my group took fire, and there was a bombed out one of those concrete houses." And he said there was a stack of 15 bodies in 120-degree heat. And he said, "I stayed hidden under those bodies for 2 or 3 days until the rescue crew came in." And I'm like, oh my gosh, my face, I tried hard not to seem judgmental about it or try to impose that, that obviously I couldn't even wrap my head around it. And I think I just uttered the words like, "You have to be kidding me. How do you feel like that's impacted you?" And he said, "Oh, it wasn't a big deal." And that taught me a lot. Again, now we have levels to what somebody deems as being traumatic and what somebody doesn't. And that's tricky.
Do you think in those moments, do you find that in the first responder community, there's a lot more disassociation or disconnection in general?
Yes.
Where they don't feel?
Yes. I think to do those positions, to do that well, I think healthy dissociation, I don't know that they could necessarily live up to the expectations of that line of service if you couldn't have a disconnection from those emotions on the regular.
What is healthy disconnection?
Well, I think healthy, that's a great question. And I think it could be different for everybody. I think a healthy disconnection, just maybe in my own scope, is having an acknowledgement that what I'm seeing and experiencing is reality, but I also have a choice to set that aside, but I have the responsibility to choose to come back and revisit it.
But how do you not bring it home? I have teachers that bring it home, where they, have fights with their partners and they say, "Well, you're not being appropriate."
Right.
Well, you sound just like a teacher.
Right. I think therein lies the reason for information about veterans and first responders.
Right. They're disconnected, and that often carries into their home lives, or they seek it out.
Right.
Maybe through drugs and alcohol.
Right. Maybe. And, the type of therapy I do, with EMDR and internal family systems, we're trying to connect mind, body, and spirit. And first responders are such a beautiful population for those modalities, but connecting the body is the hardest with all of my people.
Mhm.
So we have to do a lot more of like a bottom up approach of like, how does this emotion even feel in your body? Do you even notice your butt in the couch right now? Do you even notice like your hands, resting on, I have a stuffed animal sloth in my office. Do you even notice your hands on the stuffed animal? But I know it sounds like so minute, but if you're that disconnected all the time, even just coming back into your body slightly and building up that safety starts to help.
Well, there's no way you could lie under 15 bodies for a few days and be connected.
No, definitely not. And, I think the other part that kind of ties into this, sometimes I think there's a guilt that comes over this population in being connected to their emotions because they represent service to others. And, when we look at a textbook soldier, all we see is strength, and we see this vision of what we think that looks like. And that means strength, right? And that's it's their duty to serve. It's their duty to serve and protect whatever they're in. But I think sometimes that, this population I've found is incredibly empathetic and very empathetic to the point where it feels guilty to put themselves first.
How do you get around that in therapy if it feels guilty?
So, I kind of go back to like old school ways, kind of like, again, explaining that hierarchy of needs, when we kind of talk about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, like the two bottom needs of the pyramid, sort of the foundation is ensuring that we are as whole as we can be. Our needs are taken care of. And then around the middle of the pyramid is family, relationships, duty, all of those things. So to put a spin on it and say, I think society kind of makes us feel like doing things for ourselves is selfish, but to spin it and say, no, actually, the better you are, the better you can be for everything around you, sometimes is at least the start, that kind of education to say like, no, this is not selfish. And to be honest, you're still serving and protecting. This is just another facet of that. If you are taking care of yourself, if you're putting your needs first, you're actually serving others even better than you were before.
And I don't know if you guys hear a lot of this, but I hear a lot about comparison suffering, right? Well, who am I to suffer when I just picked up a dead body off the road?
Yes.
I'm upset about it, but look at them and look at their family and look at that poor soul. You must hear a lot of this in that population.
Most definitely.
I was just going to say, I always say, if you drown in 10 feet of water or you drowned in 100 feet of water, you're still drowning.
That's a good one.
And so this comparison, the three of us might all have the same experience this morning, and you might have laughed it off. You might have been like, well, that sucked, but it's okay. And I might be crying in my office. It doesn't devalue anyone's experience, but you're 100% right. The comparative suffering. And I also want to say, like, with my people, I see that guilt piece. I just start with, you can't caretake for me. They want to caretake for me in session, and they want to do for me or make me laugh or whatever the case is. And so we have to do some work on, this isn't about me, this is about you. And even that, I think, starts to build some of that guilt reduction. When I was working in inpatient rehab, I was working with a group of first responders, and I had broken my leg and I had to schlep all over the unit. And my Marine guys were like, all right, just hop on our back. We're going to carry you to the group room. And I'm like, that's inappropriate for several reasons. Thank you. Your intention is really lovely, but you don't need to caretake for me. But even that is starting to negotiate that, like, I don't need to be guilty for taking up space, right?
They're not going to leave you behind.
Well, they didn't. They hobbled along with me, but I did not let them carry me. So we compromised.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing, as clinicians that work with veterans and first responders, that developing trust and rapport is it can be a very slow process, even slower than what it might normally take. But once there is a very genuine trust and rapport that's made, these are some of the most loyal individuals.
Do they have trouble in relationships as well? Because then do they then become the main empathetic person, the one that carries the relationship?
I mean, I can't say that in a generalization across the board, but I definitely see trends in, sometimes this population will find ways to inject chaos into their life, and sometimes it's choosing a partner that injects chaos into their lives that keeps things like very interesting, and it's getting into these vicious cycles of I'm choosing someone to be a part of my life that I know is not good for me, but like to just have someone who's quote unquote normal that just wants to sit here and talk to me and get to know me. Like, I don't know how to exist in that. I know how to exist in arguing and fighting, and I know how to exist in someone who's a little morally loose, maybe. But I don't know what it's like to be with someone that has a very healthy core.
Interesting. What difference do you see between the first responders? Do you see any difference between like a firefighter or a military person or an EMT?
I think I would say firefighters probably stand out a little bit different to me in some ways.
Okay.
With respect to like that adrenaline piece.
Oh.
I'm not devaluing anybody's roles or what they do, but firefighters, they tend to be the first ones on the scene of a horrible car crash these days. They're the first ones on the scene. So, they are kind of there sometimes even before paramedics are there.
Oh, wow.
Some firefighters obviously are paramedics, but, EMS workers that sometimes they can be the second on the scene. Police officers sometimes don't even get there as quick as certain firefighters do. So, they feel like firefighters see a lot of the worst of the worst. And then it's also like now it's not just showing up to triage people, but it's also showing up to triage the chaos of a situation, assessing a situation, the hypervigilance of seeing a burning building and trying to collect information amidst all the chaos to know if somebody is alive in there that needs me to go rushing in. It's a little different maybe. Not saying that, obviously police officers, the same type of thing. I mean, sometimes it's writing tickets, but sometimes it's, I don't know if the person I'm writing a ticket to is going to shoot me or not. Right. So there's this hypervigilance kind of always in existence.
No, you're right. Because even if the car's on fire, how many people are in the car? How many people are in the building?
Right.
Constantly assessing. And to your point earlier about that healthy dissociation, and you don't know if they could do the job without it. I don't know about you. I couldn't run into a burning building or get my ladder up there without a little healthy dissociation. You have to be able to like click into that drive.
Right, for sure. I saw that my father growing up a lot. He was a firefighter for many, many years. And right when my baby sister was born, he was like, okay, I think I got to retire from this. But I remember he told me a story one time about there was sort of this big manor that was on fire, and there was your typical vision of flames coming out windows and things. And he was the first one on the scene because he was the chief. He was at the station. He got the truck, and the rest of the guys would just show up. But he knew there wasn't a lot of time, so he busted through a basement window, got into the basement window, got a hose drug in, and he started to put out things. And he knew it was like a kerosene fire. After he had kind of gotten that blaze under control and more bodies started to show up, meaning people there to help with the fire, he realized there was about 20 gallons of kerosene behind the door. And he said it was this moment where he kind of recognized in his own ways of understanding mental health that like I had become so hypervigilant on finding a solution to the problem that I was not even thinking about my own safety. Like it just it didn't go out the window. It just never showed up in the first place. It was just, I've got a job to do. I'm not here looking for threats that's going to bring me harm. I've got a job to do. And I think that was one of those times where he kind of took a step back and said, this is getting a little unhealthy,
Yeah.
getting a
Wow.
little unhealthy.
Yeah. So we need to appreciate the
Oh,
people
yeah.
that rush in to save us.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of in the beginning. This is not
Mhm.
a political conversation. I mean, the thing I would say too that exists very much in these this population is just the moral injury that's incurred, right? The three of us would never in our right minds go out with a gun and shoot and kill somebody, right? But we don't have this pressure and this picture of this world painted on us by people in high power and high authority that say this is your job, this is your mission.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the thing is, in the moment, with the training that they have, those emotions are not showing up. They can't exist in that moment to execute a much bigger plan.
Mhm.
But I think afterwards, coming home when things are quiet and I'm not surrounded by my people who get me, I
Mhm.
start thinking and dwelling and ruminating on
Mhm.
things that I had to do. And now I start recognizing that me as a human did those things,
Mhm.
even though it wasn't my choice,
Yeah.
maybe, but it was my duty. That's something that's so hard to balance and make sense of.
And you can't exactly come home and talk to your family about what you
No.
went through that day.
No.
Right. It's so much more than just a little hug. I'm here if you need me.
Right.
It's the need to be around people who get it, who've been there, or who have made it their life's work of understanding it as much as possible with like no judgments.
Right.
Just sometimes, like I think in these populations too, like these guys just need our ears more than anything. Just our ears. Just sitting here, being with them in this space, holding this space. So many sessions, it's just literally just unpacking and then seeing them, and they're like, I have no idea why I started on this tangent.
Mm.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Take it where you want. Go where you want. I'll hear all day, right? Like sometimes that is the most powerful thing we can do is just holding space with some of these individuals because I can't pretend to know what it would be like
And
to
hopefully,
be in those.
yeah, and hopefully fight for them to have
Yes.
mental health counseling and or spiritual counseling as they go through these jobs.
Most
Yeah.
definitely. Most definitely. And, framing therapy in a way, I even find myself with some of my first responders and veterans, like we agree that we're not going to call this therapy
Mhm.
because it's the dreaded T word, right?
Mm.
We're not going to call it therapy.
That's
What
stigma.
do you want to call it? What do you want to call it? And sometimes they'll just be like, it's suitcase time, or it's something different, something that
Yeah.
doesn't
Feel safe.
feel safer, right? This is my time. This is Tyler time. I got Tyler time on Monday and Friday. I got right. So it could be different things, and I think that's also a good thing to acknowledge is just like allow them to carve this time into being what it is that they need, and we might have to go off the books a little bit, right? Like,
Right.
And
Right.
that's fine. That's a good thing. Like therapy comes in so many packages. And I think that's something I try to provide as much psychoeducation as possible that like,
Mhm.
I'm not always sitting here analyzing.
No.
I want, I always say that to that population too. Whatever you think you know about therapy, if you've never done it before, like I'm not always sitting here analyzing.
Mm.
It's just two guys having a conversation,
Mhm.
like it doesn't have to be more than that, but it can be more than that.
It doesn't have to be more than that. That's right.
I love
So
that. So a couple quick takeaways. I think I want to make sure I heard you guys right. Try to not do the comparative suffering.
right. Yeah.
100%.
Find someone you can sit and have your own version of TT time or
Yeah.
suitcase time or connection time,
Mhm.
and reducing some of that stigma that if I go to therapy, there must be something really wrong with me or really bad, or that moral injury you kept talking about. Did I
Right.
miss any other quick takeaways?
No, I think for other clinicians that might be listening out there, this is going to be those challenging clients where you're going to have to exercise patience and permission.
Oh,
Patience and permission. I think that's the core of building a very healthy therapeutic relationship with this population, is holding space, giving them plenty of permission, and having a lot of patience with yourself. If you think regular civilian populations go very slow on treatment, sometimes you're in for it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. And I'm smiling over here because Tyler's saying patience and persistence. And I'm thinking my first responders, they tease me mercilessly. Like, you have to have a thick skin because they will tease you and lovingly spar with you. So that's what that big smile was when you were saying patience and persistence. But I think that's part of that, earning that trust. Can you handle?
Can you handle? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And it comes out in different ways. I've got a Marine that I've worked with quite a while now, and not always the most vocal person, but sometimes he'll shoot me a little text and they speak volumes. He sent me a picture of himself a little while ago at a Phillies baseball game, just holding a thumbs up. And to me, that was more than just, I went to a baseball game, thumbs up. It was, I feel so connected right now. And it just said a whole lot more. So less is definitely going to be more, but they're speaking very loudly. We just have to be in tune to that language.
And that's a good note to end on. What do you think? Thank you for summarizing.
Absolutely, sure.
And what do we always say, Melissa?
It's all going to be all right.
It's all going to be all right.
Absolutely. It will.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.